Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're going to look at applying multiple textures to a single shape as transparency masks in Adobe Illustrator. Now that might sound like a mouthful, and it sort of is, but it's also pretty simple to do, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. So I'm going to start with my shape, and for this I'm going to the pencil tool. Now I've already got the pencils tool set to smooth, and I'm just going to draw a sort of whimsical shape. So let's just flick these colors around. I don't want any stroke, and I want my fill to be a sort of pink color. That'll be just fine. And I'm just going to draw a sort of whimsical heart shape. Not worried too much about how this looks, but I'm going to finish where I began here. So I've got my shape that I'm going to apply my textures to, and now we need some textures. Now one of the places that you can find textures is in the brushes panel. So I'm opening up my brushes panel. I already made this brush, and up in the top corner here I'm going to show you the video in which I made the brush so you could make your own. So I'm just coming down here to use a define. I'm going to grab my skeleton leaf brush. Now with our brushes, we're just going to drag them into the document. Now this is a really big brush, but there are other brushes that you could use. For example, let's come down to artistic, and there's chalk, charcoal, pencil. And I kind of like this as a brush, so I'm just going to drag it into the document. It's a nice little texture element. With the selection tool we can select on it, and then we can just make it really, really big, and there is a texture that we could use. I'm not going to use that one right now. Now the other thing that we can use for textures is patterns, and there are patterns built into Adobe Illustrator. So let's go and get a rectangle, and I want to fill this with my pattern. So I'm going up here to the swatches panel, and I'm going down here again to the library here, and we're going to patterns, and we're going here to basic graphics, and I'm going to choose basic graphics lines. But there's also textures and there's also dots. There's heaps and heaps of things that you could use. Now I kind of like this one, which is a grid. So I'm just filling my shape here with a grid. So I'm going to line up my pattern filled shape over my design, and I'm going to take this other brush, which I'm also going to use as a texture. Now I can make it really big or I can make it really small. I'm just going to decide sort of roughly what I'm going to do with it. So let's just rotate it around and have it come in at the bottom of this shape. And so what I want to do is to effectively crop the textures to the shape. So what we're going to do is go to the layers panel over here and open it up, and we're going to select the texture element. So this is the grid and this is the leaf, the skeleton leaf. So I'm going to select both of those, and I'm going to group them with object and then group. So they're now in a group, so they're going to travel together the way they are currently arranged. So next we're going to add in the shape. So we're going to grab this heart shape. Again, I'm shift clicking on its little icon here in the layers panel. So I've got on the top my group of textures, on the bottom the shape I want to apply them to. So we're going to window and then all the way down here to transparency. So I'm going to click on transparency, and you'll see here at the top of the transparency dialog, just close that up, is the make mask option. So just going to click on make mask, and at this stage it looks like it's been spectacularly unsuccessful, but there's two little check boxes here, and you can just play around with those. So if we invert the mask, you'll see that we've lost the pink of the flower, but the textures have been colored pink. So in actual fact we've ended up with a heart shape that has the textures in pink, and they're clipped obviously where they fall outside the heart shape. Now if we turn off clip and turn off invert mask, we get the other option where we've got the pink of the original shape and we've got white where the textures were black. So let's have a look in the layers panel. We've got this shape. There's no indication here as to what's going on beyond this little dotted line under the word path, and that's telling us that there's some sort of effect applied here. If we target the shape here by clicking on the icon, and if we have the transparency panel open, we're going to see it automatically. If we don't, we can open the transparency panel, and that would give us the ability to edit these. You can see here that the shape is selected over here, but if we go here, we'll be able to isolate and select the mask. So I can actually move the mask and even perhaps rotate it within this shape. If I rotate it, I'm going to lose my grid. I don't think I want to do that. But let's go back to the heart shape, and that's really important that you click on here before you close down this panel, because you see that the layers panel is just looking at the opacity mask. If we click here on the heart shape or whatever shape it is that we've applied our textures to, then the layers panel goes back to what we expect the layers panel to look like. So you can use this technique for all sorts of creative applications in Adobe Illustrator, and you can use multiple textures. You don't have to just use 2. You could use 3 or 4 textures, stack them all up to get the effect that you want, and then use the transparency mask option to apply them as a fill to a shape. Now, just before we leave this design, let's have a look and see what happens when we want to put a stroke on this object. So I have the appearance panel open here, and I'm going to apply a pink stroke to it. But when I add the stroke, you'll see that the stroke is part of the transparency mask. So it's just extending the transparency mask effect. When I make it blue, you can see that the stroke is really not functioning the way that we would expect it. So what I'm going to do is just turn off that stroke for now. The way that we're going to be able to apply a stroke to this object is in the layers panel. You can see that I've got the object selected. I'm going to put it in a group. So I'm going to object and then group. And when it's inside a group, we can actually apply a stroke to the grouped object. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going straight to the appearance panel. It's going to be easier to do here. You can see I've got my group and my contents. Well, I've got my contents selected here, so I'm just going to click on add new stroke, and you can see already that that's added a stroke around the shape. So I'm going to make this pink to match the shape. I'm just going to increase the width of it. So this is the way that you can add a stroke around the object, but you are going to have to select your object with its transparency mask, put it in a group, and then apply the stroke to the group. If you like carefully researched content like this, clearly presented in a step-by-step format so that you can get great results, then you'll love my Skillshare content. I'm a Skillshare top teacher. I have hundreds of short courses on Skillshare that you can access, along with thousands of other great courses, all for the price of a single subscription. If you're interested, there's a Skillshare coupon for you in the description below to use to sign up. Using this coupon benefits me as a creator, and it helps me continue to make free content available here for you, also on YouTube. Thank you for joining me for this video tutorial. On the screen now, you'll see a video that I've hand-picked for you. If you enjoyed the video you've just watched, I know that you're going to really enjoy the one I've picked for you to watch next.